I'm not saying we
Okay,
should
cool.
take an hour, but I'm just saying I don't
Yeah,
want you to
yeah.
Yeah,
miss
take your time.
important stuff either.
Okay, cool. So this is just a little context, guys. I had some of these thoughts. They were kind of like in the renting space in the back of my brain, observations like this is not working, that is not working. And what happened is the Explorers program kind of forced me to like crystallize that into some concrete points. Okay. Now, my original plan for this program and my submission was like I was going to put forth a plan for progressive decentralization. But what happened was I kept thinking about that. I said, but what's the structure? You know, you have to work backwards from a destination or from some kind of structure, even kind of as a template, right? And so I thought, you know what? Let me fire out a structure. Then I'm going to circle back and hit on progressive decentralization. But then ETH Denver happened and time evaporated, and here I am, right? So yeah, I'll show you by the end of this deck, you'll kind of see like where my head's at on the progressive decentralization. But this is the precursor to that, I think, right? And so the first off, let me say that all the gigabrains, right, when they talk about like DAO stuff, they all want to talk about governance, right? But what's interesting is governance is like the voice of the DAO, whereas the execution is the hands. And you can have the loudest voice ever, and if the DAO can't execute, then it kind of doesn't matter, right? You can pour tons of money, like, you know, BDAO gave me and my little group like 30 G's for the past 3 months for like website updates. And I was like, 30 G's, we can like do some amazing stuff with this. And so we're like, we're trying to do some amazing stuff, right? But so that all that to say is that money gets eaten up if you don't have strong execution. So I put this out on Mirror, and I'm super thankful that, man, it got picked up at Rabbit Hole, Forefront, Talent DAO, Bankless DAO. So I'm super stoked to be moving the needle a little bit in this space as a thinker, right?
Awesome.
So I'm thankful to Blockzero for putting me in the position to deliver.
Hell yeah.
All right.
I got to tweet that. Governance is the voice, the DAO, but execution is the hands. That's tweetable.
Yeah, man.
All right, man. All right, cool. Okay, so going right in, this is the current state of DAO communication. This right here.
Dude, totally.
Okay, all you need to do, I got one word for you to demonstrate this. Discord. This is it. And what's crazy is this isn't a convenient thing. There are fundamental laws of software development and organizational design that say your communication structures, your lines of communication determine what you put out. You cannot put a holistic unit out when your communication channels look like this. Next up, this is the current state of DAO coordination. Right here. You know, the idea is we're going to slay Moloch, okay? Moloch probably reigns supreme more in DAOs than even in the real world.
Sorry, what's Moloch?
Moloch is the, there was this poem written a long time ago about this kind of demonic god figure called Moloch.
Oh, the owl god? The owl god?
It's
What's
mentioned. It's biblical too, but it's like an ancient Middle Eastern god, I believe. It's like.
Yeah, it's come through the Web3 space as the meme for he is the god of coordination failure. Okay? That is like we can each have our own really wanting to do the right thing, but because we cannot adequately coordinate, we make a perfect hell for ourselves on Earth. Right? Because of lack of coordination, the money that should go to the poor gets lost in bureaucracy. Everyone's best efforts doesn't create composability and value accrual, right? So you can boil this all down to programmability doesn't mean programmed well. And in DAOs, we get programmable coordination. But, you know, if we don't have an operating system and a framework for that, then you end up with spaghetti code and a pure nightmare, right?
Sure.
So you know, I kicked off this piece with this statement, right, that not everyone who joins your Discord server is a member of your DAO, and neither should they be. And I think that statement right there got people's panties in a bunch, okay? Because it's like, dang, dude, okay. And so the whole point here is that different levels of community engagement have different privileges and expectations. And if you treat everyone as fungible, that is what they're interested in doing, you ruin it for everybody. There are people there who just want to have fun. if they're lumped in with people who are trying to solve like deep issues of governance and tokenomics, both of them are going to resent the other. Yep. There are people in there who got a ton of time, man. They're just chilling in Slack. See you around Discord. And then other people are like, listen, dude, I got 5 critical projects I'm trying to execute on. If you just lump all these people together, everyone's ruined.
I feel you.
Okay? And so next up is like the risk reward. Okay? If the DAO trusts someone to deliver on something, even if the funds are saved on a multi-sig and they don't deliver, if the DAO wastes 3 months on somebody who doesn't deliver, there's an opportunity cost. And how about this? The person who says, yes, I will take this money and deliver in 3 months, is the reward commensurate with their dedication? Okay? Because right now, I kid you not, it's possible to go in and be real serious and do some serious deliverables, and basically somebody who's just like collecting all the POAPs and all the meetings is making more money because they're just like in the vibes, right? And so here we have Moloch reigning supreme right here. So I said, consider the following questions and think about the organization, your DAO, right? 1. Does it segment groups with defined availability, responsibility, and expectation levels? 2, does it leverage tools and access rights that correspond to those segmentation levels? And then 3, does the financial upside of each segment match the expected levels of commitment and responsibility? Okay? And so this is where I'm going to propose a few layers here. And the idea is that all of these layers are scoped. Okay, now people would say, well, hierarchy. I'll replace the word hierarchy with abstraction. Okay, no one's getting upset about abstractions in computer programming or abstractions in science or mathematics. There's a negative connotation with hierarchy, so we can drop that term. But the idea is that we can introduce these segments, and here's the thing, we can introduce token gates at these different segments to have a clear, an explicit transition from one state to the next, from one level to the next, right? So the first layer I'm positing is the community. It represents a product's users. It encompasses anyone who uses the products or services of the community. There are no gates to enter. All are encouraged to participate. This includes anyone who owns any amount of the community token, assuming that that's the nature of the governance, right? It's the largest and most amorphous entity in this whole scheme. And it kind of highlights that you want all members to, you want all the members to continue to be users throughout the rest of the contributor funnel. So the idea is when you become a contributor, when you got involved in governance, when you get involved in a specific team, you don't cease to be a user. Okay, you're still a user, right? It's just a matter of do you go up the funnel? Okay. Mm-hmm. This could be basically everyone who gets access to your Discord, or it could be you only open your Discord to community members or whatever. It's just however you want to do it, right? Next up, we have the second scoped entity, which is community members, okay? And then we have the first gate you can see there. The idea with all these gates is that there is an application process and certain prerequisites. So for instance, hey, I want to get involved. I mean, honestly, this Explorers program is the closest I can think, like, as far as what we're familiar with in this context, as to like a community entrance. There was an application process. There was like some expectations, and it could, technically it could just go on. It's not just 1 month. It's like a kind of an ongoing thing. And someone could stay at this level forever. Right? And be fully participating. Awesome. We have 1 or 2 meetings a week. We're doing stuff and all. But there's this application process and acceptance. And then there's the explorers, the advocates, the evangelists. And you'll notice a lot of other type of Web3 communities employ the similar type of terminology, right? Now, what's so important about this level is this is the level where all the vibes come out. It's easier to kind of create vibes in this because it's low like pressure, and this is a large group. It's a community group, and these vibes feed the whole thing like fuel. Okay, these are the communities where people can learn, demonstrate acquired skills, And community membership gate could consist of an application combined with a required, and like FWB and Raid Guild do this, right? But to put it in the most distinct way, while public users benefit from the community's products, community members influence how those products and services are created and disseminated. You got your army of marketers and user testers right here, right? Okay, next.
I just got to say, I think it was from Bankless. Not Ryan. Who was blanking? The other guy, Hoffman.
Yep.
He said all a DAO is vibes. I think that was his comment.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. It's a super symbiotic relationship, right? Which we'll get into that in a little bit about like which is more important, which comes first, and there's like an interesting kind of heuristic we can draw from that, which fits with what it kind of creates a path from Web 2 to Web 3, and it doesn't just say Web 2 is junk. There's like a path there, right? So this next level is the level of the contributor. And when you hear this term, contributors, you hear this a lot in different DAOs and stuff. They're already making these implicit distinctions, but without kind of hard and fast rules. What's hard, though, is without making a distinction between just users, people in the Discord, community members with a certain level of commitment and engagement, and then the contributors, everybody's pissed, One thing you get by having this explicit contributor layer is you get stronger governance, okay? Because here's the thing. If you limit governance to contributors, then the people closest to the work are the ones actually making decisions. You don't have a whale coming in, swinging stuff, okay? And you don't have people who, hey, I have just a little something, and I'm kind of influencing and all this. It's like, it's just not... It doesn't work, and I don't think it's right. There's that. Is this right? So being a community member is distinct from being a voting member of its governing bodies. The incentive, concerns, responsibilities are just different. And this distinction is one thing. What you'll see with communities when they do delegated voting. So here's a good example. Am I in the ENS server? I think so. Do I hold ENS? Yeah. Can I vote directly? No. Am I in the ENS DAO? Not really. I'm not. That'd be a stretch to say I am. But I can delegate my tokens to a delegator. I can say, hey, I really trust Bentley or whoever, right? I trust he's the guy, and these act as like our protocol politicians. I think some people have used those terms, right?
Interesting.
Sorry if this is don't go down this rabbit hole if it's going to take more than 10 seconds. How are those delegators chosen?
I think anyone can present themselves as a delegate. Okay.
And then the token holders vote on? Yes.
The token holders basically like throw their tokens to one of those delegates that they believe in, and as like almost like what you think of as like real world politics,
Yeah. But so I'm saying, do the delegates choose who can become a delegator?
No.
Or do the token holders nominate? Yeah. So that is one thing that even if you're not a delegate, you can vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And one other question: are when you say throw the tokens at the person, it's not like they're transferring the tokens, right? It's just like their voting share via their tokens can be used by that person.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's all maintained self custody, so no one can like run off with your
That's
stuff.
awesome.
But
that's great to see.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's really interesting right now. Sorry to add context here, but Justice, you probably know this better than me. The biggest delegate on ENS is the guy that people dislike the most right now, right?
Well, I'm not sure he's still the biggest. A lot of people
during the first few days. He was, but the point is, whenever we all claimed our ENS tokens, it said, "Who would you like to appoint delegate your votes to?" And I just clicked the one I knew, which was Nick, and so. I delegated him, but now this guy Brantley, if you guys want to look down that rabbit hole of things he was saying, everybody hates him. And for the first many days, I'm sure he was still holding the most amount of votes. So I just thought that was a crazy situation.
It is super crazy. And it does show like the power, like everyone can just like, repoint their tokens to another delegate. So there is power there, but everybody knows who's ever built anything or done anything. If you just take a massive vote from everyone in the world, you need actually people who are really in the weeds on the issues, on the specific. They're in there. They're going to be the ones that make the best decision. But how do we do that without just giving up our freedom? And that's where this kind of abstraction layers come into play, you know?
Yeah, I'm totally dominating the conversation. Apologies. Tell me to shut up at any point in time. But it kind of what you're describing here, this delegation is a less, or it's a more binary version than like what people were obsessed for the longest time, which was like reputation, right? It was like a linear reputation rather than like you're either in it or you're not. Would you agree or disagree with that? Because people thought reputation was going to be the end-all be-all for governance, you know?
Man, it may be, but, you know, there's going to be a big difference between the reputation of somebody who's been in the server once a week and somebody who's like on the core team, on the Twitter sphere, like going ham on the main topics all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
We don't have to go down. One of the earliest when I was doing marketing agency, we did DAO Stack. Remember DAO Stack?
Yep.
Back in the day, and they had the rep token, and it was like, I was like, oh, this makes sense. And then from Jack DeRose, I talked to with Colony, and he was all about the only objective way to do reputation is how much you get paid. You know, it's like, that means I don't know. All right, rabbit hole. Let's keep going.
Well, just to bring it up, to this day, the whole Colony DAO OS is the strongest. Its very name is built on this reputation element. Is that as you continually make good decisions that get ratified by the community, you build up this scent trail taken from like ants that show, like, they solve like P versus NP, like the inscrutable math problem, using this like scent trail where, you know, the smell diminishes over time, and then when the ants smell it and they go to the same location, they find the food too. So more ants go there, make the scent stronger, and they actually solve this P versus NP. In a similar way, this reputation of like, this guy nails it, he has fantastic takes, but guess what? If he disappears for a year, that scent's going to go way down, and some other people will raise up because they're closer to the work.
It's cool.
Okay. Next up, and this is an important one. I'm telling you, the distinction between these levels is absolutely critical, in my opinion, right? From the contributors, we have teams. These are execution teams, okay? The entire, like the atomic unit of value delivery, taken all the way back from Lean, Agile, Scaled Agile, Scrum, is the dynamic of a team. Its size, its persistent identity, the dynamic between them. So much research has gone into this. It is wild. And yet we think that we can have like some sloppy, lackadaisical, like, oh, well, so-and-so showed up in the Discord a few days, they're on the team. Like that doesn't deliver the kind of long-term, like, powerhouse results at what you want. And so a person could stay at this contributor level, right? But this is different than, hey, I'm on a team. There are set times for the team. There was an application for the team. And we're working backwards with milestones, release dates. And I don't even mean this is just software. This is milestones and release dates of any unit of value. It's at this level that you can get into flow analytics. You all the richness of the analytics come in at the team level, right? So teams are the community's engine, and their ongoing development will define the efficiency and sustainability of a community's product offering. A DAO cannot produce sustainable revenue without them. Communities gather around successful products, and vibrant communities make successful products possible. This is the symbiotic relationship, the lifeblood of Web3. So I would say this: which is more important, community or product? Well, one has a primacy in order. That's the product, and the other one has a primacy of importance, which is community. So they're equally. Now, why would I even say the community has such a primacy of importance and not order, right? It's this: you can miss on the product side, and the community will sustain you to try again on future products.
For sure.
Right? But how do you produce how do you produce a community without a product? Now, it may be that product's not built yet, but the desire is there so strong the community's already come together. right? But it's easier if you have a product that people are already hype on. You already have some revenue, and you can like work that, you know.
Yeah. Is the closest what is the closest thing to here? Is this how you identify the core now? Or are there some characteristics on this layer 2 that you don't think is the core? Because it seems like we've kind of built explorers, DAO proper core, and then team member council. Is that how you see it, or no?
In the context of Blockzero, here's how I would map that. I'm probably exactly what you're saying. You have the users, anybody in the server, Discord server. You have the community. This is the explorers. Now, maybe that changes in flavor and becomes more inclusive, or changes in dynamic. You have the contributor level, which, you know, this is where elements of governance, tokenomics, you know, a person can navigate in this without being in a concrete delivery team, right? And then the team probably, I wouldn't even say it's the core. It's probably several entities on the core. Probably a few on there, right? And then I put specifically, I call out this lead because in the same way, I believe in one throat to choke, single point of failure, putting, avoiding dilution of responsibility, which is why there's an old Chinese proverb: "Man with two watches doesn't know what time it is." What's the canonical source, right? Apple does this. Many communities do this. They call them project champions, leads. Apple calls them the DRI, directly responsible individual. And these are the people, at least in some other DAO communities I'm part of, they wrote the proposal. They stood before the grants committee, and they got the money, and they're with their trusted partners, you know, on the multi-sig.
Yeah. Just to say how much this resonates with me, with Blockzero, pretty much a year ago, I became that lead for everything we were doing. And it's not always the person that's like the project manager. It's the one, I would say, who's going to take the heat, right? It's going to be my name on the line, my reputation. So whenever we launch Flash, and then two months in, they're like, all right, who's leading this forward? And then my naive goal, my naive self in the past was like, well, if we want it to be successful, somebody needs to step up. Nobody stepped up, like, to pick it up. So, you know, we did well. The council kind of came together, and then we wrote a Medium article and stuff like that. But this resonates with me so much to where now every single thing that we do as Blockzero, the goal is to have a clear, like, Cryptonauts right now, it's easy, like Steve, like that's his name on it, you know? I'm still even a little weary about Flashdate, where it's like kind of me and Nick is a project mate. So it's like how we do this at scale, realizing I was literally every new project, I was becoming the emotional lead of all of these things, and that was super stressful.
Yeah, that's not sustainable.
Yeah, and that, you know, this goes back all the way to the Agile Manifesto, is that, and this is what Steve Jobs did, he got the best people in the world, and when they brought to him their first pass on something, he'd be like, I mean, I guess it's okay, but I thought you were the best. And suddenly their pride, the psychological element came, and they're like, motherfucker, man.
Yeah.
It's
your name's on the line.
Yeah.
Your ego,
Yeah, their entire reputation. They came back and then rocked it, right? And so the Agile Manifesto is like, it's to put the vision, the products behind motivated individuals. Those are the individuals, those are the drivers. Now, that's not to say this is the boss. But they are, the buck stops with them. They're the coordinator. I know in my case, in other situations, I've had stuff that, you know, work streams that have kind of taken on two identities. And then I said, listen, one person, like, listen, you take this work stream and run with it. Because I feel like at this point I'm taking on two, and this is a dilution. Like, I'll focus on one, you focus on the other, and it lifts them up and they're on it, you know? Okay, so now this is how do you implement this hierarchy? And this is what I'm going to argue as a value. Exactly how it's implemented is going to be different, you know, as technology changes, whatever, right? But I'm going to argue that ultimately we should work backwards from token-centered access, token-centered gating. Why? Because it is the core value of decentralization, of self-custody, sovereign portable identity, portable skill set. This is something that can be rolled out to a full Anons, right? And so, this is an example that I put forth. Obviously, it would differ. So basically what you see here is you see like what are the main tools. There's a communication tool, workflow, scheduling, and structure, org chart, and then over to the right you can see like what examples of what those tools might be, and then specifically like the token, what would that token, how would it be token gated at each level of that tool. Okay, so you have the application process. Okay, they get it, they have the prerequisite token. They're able to come in and you can change their permissions across the board because of their possession of that token. And like what you guys were mentioning earlier, it could be ENS. It's an NFT, but it still represents like their name. So there's like portability options there. So that's the principle.
What does a scoped mean? The communication for the Explorer, scoped.
Basically, that at Discord, having access to Discord as a server doesn't mean you have access to every single channel.
Mm-hmm. So it's like a narrow vision. Is that what you mean by scope? Like just like you could always...
Well, what it means is there may be a governance group, there may be a contributor layer to Discord, a governance, that overlaps. That's part of that contributor governance side, and specific teams. And just because you're in Discord as a community member doesn't mean you have access to all those channels. Okay, you would have to go up to the appropriate level. So that is to say, it's not a one-size-fits-all at the Discord level. You can have, hey, I have access to the Explorers, the public layer of Discord, then the Explorers, then the contributor, then to specific teams.
Exactly.
And this brings down that cognitive overhead. This whole idea, it could be even opt-in. Maybe you have the ability, but only opt-in. Oh, that's what I meant by that self-select. That next one to the right.
That's the whole. This ties in with the whole, tier 2, tier 3 thing that I was presenting. I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
We present the different options of how people can bring value, and Explorer is just one channel, but literally we're trying to get a place for every type of contributor possible, and then of course there's also the meme lords who can stay back on the community level.
Yeah. All right. So guys, give me just like 1 sec. I gotta
pee. This is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go pee.
Great job, Justice. So what's cal.com?
Dude, it's an open source alternative to Calendly. You ever use Calendly?
Dash uses it, but no, I actually want something like this, so I'm going to take a look into it.
Dude, it's awesome, but Cal.com rolled out a Web3 integration. It's Calendly, full-blown calendar management and scheduling based on token gates.
Pretty epic.
So that means, like, let's say you're on a team. Basically, other team members can grab time on your calendar based upon, like, being in that team. So this creates, like, those kind of async super tools.
The gamification aspect of like, oh, cool, like you can't not just anyone can get on your Calendly. It's people who you're working directly with. See, I'm really trying to push for people to go move towards Clarity. The thing that I noticed today, there were some. I'm going to have like a big chat with their developers, because it seems like they're pretty accessible right now. There was just like some weird thing where I was trying to edit it before people were going to come in, people who have not seen Clarity yet. I just wanted to edit the front page, and I was trying to get it to, I was like, okay, edit, and it wouldn't actually update. And I was like, God damn it, this is such a bad look. Like, I'm trying to like change it from like, hello, this is the blank template of Clarity.
The funny part is stuff is rolling out so fast, guys, that I don't want to be like, this is the tool. I mean, 2 more tools that make available the token gating mechanics have come out like since I made this slide. 2 or 3, okay, with varying levels of capability, okay.
Right.
But the whole idea is if you work backwards, from the token-centered approach, if you stick with that like Ethereum did with decentralization, they're not moving on that, right? Then guess what? Introducing another tool, no biggie. It's no big deal.
Sure.
You use those exact same token gates, you know?
Yeah, I think it just doesn't. As long as we're moving towards the token, like the Web3 direction, I think that's just a smart move. Regardless if the current tool that we're using, right, like you just said, we have to switch. That's fine. As long as we're moving away from Web 2 solutions, what's the point of those? You know, in this new environment we're trying to head towards.
Let me see here. All right, one thing I will mention, Brooks' Law too is a big one on this whole the team dynamic. People act like it's no big deal for someone to show up in the meeting and just be like talking and I think, and we're like, how do I get involved? Every new person you add takes away from the momentum of the team. There's a place for onboarding and there's a place for optimum team sizes. This has all been documented. There's like deep research on it. And so just the way that DAOs are operating right now is, it's not sustainable, and some guardrails have to be put up that still respect the values and the freedom of like how a person does get involved and what are those channels. And so, there's a lot of people talk about structurelessness is tyranny. We want structure, we want a funnel. And, now one consequence of this that I am super thrilled by is if you guys have seen most organizations, their Sobel mapping, they have a bunch of disparate circles. They say, well, this is over here and that's over there and that's over there, right? But if you really think about it, right, the funnel should actually be scoped. Okay? And so what we have here is, look, we have a public, and maybe there's guests, like users come in here, and this is, the DRI as far as user support or something. This is the directly responsible individual, right? And we have this community. Here's the explorers, and then, like Ed, you'd be like the DRI for explorers, Mm-hmm. And then guess what? We have the contributor layer, and where we have the different teams. Okay, we have members on that team, the DRI, and then maybe we even have a team that's ops, which it's beyond the scope of this conversation. But there's even like some deep stuff to go into how do you organize teams in an organization, and that's pretty much what I've been doing in my enterprise job the past 3 years. Like, what's optimum organization at the execution level? Like, what are enabler teams? What are delivery teams? As DevOps going, what does that stuff look like, right? So this scoped relationship. Now, let me see. Now, as far as token gating, a few things as far as the complexity and like programmability that comes into here. A few things. One is guild.xyz has come out, and I don't put this out here because, it's the way. But between them and Collabland, they're introducing some sophisticated token gating mechanics, okay? Collabland introduced their partnership with Sobel just a couple days ago, and so basically, it is the smoothest transition from Discord into Sobel as far as those layers of access, which is a thing of beauty. Before, you had to have your token gating at the Discord level and then try to mirror your Discord access to Sobel, so it was like indirect. But you can see, just to point out, in this guild.xyz, they try to provide some token gating, but look at the complexity they have here. Dude, they got full logic gates.
That's awesome.
You have to have this or not that. And then freaking Juicebox. Juicebox is like full-blown treasury programming, So you got your snapshot strategy, your voting, a mirror edition. So you guys, the dynamic where like you write an article, a manifesto, and everyone who mints it gets the NFT. Guess that NFT just becomes the token gate as the doorway into your community. All right?
So this is Mirror XYZ?
Yeah.
That's sick. Okay, Dash, you got to start moving towards that. So you got to drop Medium. That's the future.
Dude, the XYZ as a subdomain is so much clout, and I'm
so mad. We're creating a project called Novas, and it has a novas.xyz. Mm-hmm. I was about to buy it. I went there today. It was $13,000 more. I'm like, oh, the hell.
Dude, it's between ENS, XYZ. It's the gold rush,
So Justice, back to this thing. So basically, they have multiple routes which you can verify you have some involvement here.
Yeah, basically, it's programmability. So this person has these POAPs, right? You could, I mean, this is what there's like a million ways to do it.
Sure.
But as soon as we start thinking like it's programmable, let's do something at a specific way, and then we can always change the programming.
Benjamin, you seeing this? This is it. This is what's up.
Just doing that, though, is a whole different approach than like everybody in the Discord server. Oh, we're a DAO. And then we try to trust and remember who, like, the people who show up on the regular, and like, I think I've seen his name around, and it's like the cognitive load is terrible. It's rough, And then here's the thing too, and I really suffer from this, is if you have a portable skill set and you're trying to be involved in more than one community, and you're like, listen, I want to operate at this level. This is the value I can bring. If there is no structure, it's inaccessible, because you don't have time to be kicking it in the server all day. You need to be in there cracking the nut on this layer, right?
Yep.
And so if there is this programmable, reproducible, optimized, like scoped focus ability, that changes the game, because now people who have that high skill set, they know they can lock in a recurring meeting on their calendar during the week with a workflow that says this is your name on the ticket, and they can deliver that value. And you're able to extract that high value from people who are very limited in supply and time and resources, So, once again, the value here is self-sovereign identity. Everyone is going to want, it's the dream is on-chain CV. It's totally open to people who are anonymous. It's programmable. Okay. What's next? Okay. This is what's next as far as what I want to focus on next. Level specific health analytics. Okay. We've identified these levels, but what are the unique metrics related to community, but public, community, contributors, teams? Because they're specific numbers you would want to look to know like the health of this. And this is the big one. I don't know if this is possible, but my spidey sense is tingling that there is something here. Can it be inferred via on-chain data? Think about it. You already have token gated. You can quantify various things like meeting attendance with POAPs. You're moving issues across a workflow from left to right, and you're working backwards from KPIs and deliverables, right? If it was possible to determine health analytics from on-chain data, you could be doing health research across DAOs without it being a part of them, without them even supposedly putting out data. You could start to begin to like model this type of stuff. So this whole token engineering commons and stuff, I think I'm really excited to see what the big brains out of there start coming. 2, information radiators of said health data. Forefront has a DAO terminal. I've been pinging those guys for like the past, I feel like, month, saying, listen, when beating on the gate, when do the rest of us get the terminal, right? And then I got pinged over the weekend. Then the guy said he saw this article put out, and he's like, we needed a jam. I said, I'd love to, man. What's good with the terminal? And he said, dude, over the next 2 weeks, we're kicking off a working session on how to make this available and in a monetizable way as a service. And so what's insane is in the enterprise world, if you want to influence people without authority, the first thing you do is you do it through visibility. Just putting up on a big wall the delivery analytics across 7 teams completely changes the dynamic. People who were not internally motivated suddenly become internally motivated when they're at the bottom of the list. Okay? This is that visibility. Okay? 3, DAO to DAO relationships specializing in layer-specific expertise. This is the thing. Web3 turns competition into composition. All right? It unleashes value accrual. And that was felt at ETH Denver, where everyone you're talking to, they weren't a competitor. They were a potential partner. right? So the mechanics of Web3 unleash this new social dynamic. So what I'm thinking is, look at it this way, right? Imagine you're coming into a job and you're doing some DAOification. You know, you're taking something and that's a standard business and you want to turn it into a DAO, right? Is anyone so foolish enough to know that they have the deepest knowledge on tokenomics, community management, governance structures? Certainly they can put forth a draft on exactly kind of an approach with proven patterns and what. But I'm seeing is like you have DAOs like WGMI, Bankless, and some others, Rari or whatever, that they have a delegate coming from them to say, listen, this is what our DAO does, but we really specialize in this. WGMI, all they do, Matt Wright, is like community management training and knowledge sharing, right? Then that person comes in and either they work in the DAO, they get paid, or they do an audit of kind of the plan, the structure, right? And now all of a sudden both communities are feeding into each other in a way that everyone is winning, right? So those DAO to DAO relationships. And then fourth, this iterative DAOification, aka progressive decentralization. The idea here is, you know, this iterative DAOification is, I'm saying like DAOification is basically taking a Web 2 and turning it into a Web 3, right? The progressive decentralization is the ongoing effort to how do we have more accessible contributor funnels so people aren't put out. How do we avoid the plutocracy of the rich just run everything because we just run a standard out of the box token voting, and so the whales basically decide everything. You know, how about infrastructure decentralization? Like, man, all of our stuff is literally running on AWS. We're like some clowns over here thinking we're truly decentralized. We'll really flip a switch and we're down. But all this is ongoing forever, right? So I just took a basic Agile chart and just called it DAOgile.
I like it.
So this is like, you know, Web3 business models, community development, governance, permissionless project management and stuff. So that's my, as it were, final presentation and kind of where my head's at going in the future.